They say time is the greatest thief. But the truth is, time doesn't kill us, our habits do. Most people never realize this until it's too late. They live as if their days are unlimited, as if the clock will bend in their favor. Yet by the time they reach their 60s or 70s, they discover a cruel reality. The body is not a forgiving machine. It is a ledger, a record keeper of every choice we ever made. And this ledger does not lie. Why do so many men and women, full of dreams, full of possibility, fail to push past 80 years of life with energy, vitality, and strength? Why does the majority grow frail, dependent, their light dimmed far too early? The answer is not just fate. It's not merely genetics. It is the quiet accumulation of 4 hidden enemies, 4 assassins of longevity, that operate in the shadows of our daily lives. They do not come as thunder. They arrive silently, disguised as comfort, disguised as normal. And unless you awaken, they will rob you of decades you could have lived with power. The first of these enemies is stress that is never released. Humanity has always carried burdens, but modern life introduced a poison. Constant, low-grade pressure that never ends. Think about the heart of a man like Abraham Lincoln, carrying the weight of a divided nation. He aged decades in just a few years, his face carved with worry, his body paying the price. But here is the difference. Lincoln carried stress for a cause beyond himself, while most today carry stress born of endless comparison, bills, and self-imposed prisons. The body does not distinguish between a lion chasing you and an unpaid bill haunting your thoughts. The chemical storm is the same. Day after day, the flood of cortisol burns your arteries, weakens your heart, shortens your breath. And the tragedy? Most never learn to discharge it. They live in silent wars with themselves until the heart gives out long before its time. The second hidden enemy is the slow poison of nutrition disguised as convenience. Consider Henry Ford, who revolutionized how people lived with his machines. Yet even Ford, in his wisdom, valued the simplicity of natural food, growing his own vegetables on his estate. Today, however, men and women fuel their bodies like broken engines, cheap oils, processed sugars, meals pulled from boxes instead of the earth. Imagine putting water into a car's gas tank and expecting it to drive. That is how most treat their bodies. The result is inflammation, organs clogged, cells suffocating. And still they shrug it off as just aging. It is not aging, it is negligence. The human body was designed for resilience, but if you supply it with toxins year after year, it will eventually surrender, decades earlier than it was built to last. The third enemy is inactivity, the death of movement. Thomas Edison once said, "The chief function of the body is to carry the brain around." But today, most carry their brains only from chair to couch, from car seat to office desk. The muscles shrink, the bones weaken, circulation slows like a stagnant river. Civilization has given us convenience, but convenience has stolen our vitality. Watch a child run, and you will see the natural state of the human body, agile, curious, alive. Watch an old man who has abandoned motion, and you will see the price of stillness. But do not mistake me. It is not age that bends the spine, it is years of surrender. Motion is medicine, but most trade it for comfort until their very structure collapses under the weight of unused potential. And finally, the fourth hidden enemy, the one no doctor prescribes for, the one no pill can fix, a life without purpose. Walt Disney once stood bankrupt, ridiculed, told his dreams were impossible. Yet he lived to build an empire of imagination because his soul burned with direction. Purpose is oxygen for the spirit. When a man loses it, his body begins to die, even if his lungs still breathe. How many retire with money, but no mission, only to fade within a few short years? The cemetery is full of people who stopped living long before their hearts stopped beating. A body without a reason to rise each morning decays faster than any disease. And this is why so many never cross the threshold of 80 with strength, because they stopped living for something greater than themselves. These four enemies, chronic stress, poor nutrition, inactivity, and purposelessness, are not written in stone. They are not inevitable. They are choices. And this is where the great secret lies. You can outwit them. You can rewrite your own longevity, not with luck, but with consciousness. Because the difference between the man who limps to 75 and the one who thrives at 95 is not fate. It is discipline, awareness, and here lies the truth too many ignore. The body is not a victim of age, it is a servant of habits. If you feed it poison, it weakens. If you feed it discipline, it grows stronger, even as the years climb higher. History is proof. Look at Benjamin Franklin, who lived into his 80s at a time when life expectancy barely reached 40. He was not spared by chance. He was spared by his relentless curiosity, his motion, his moderation, and most importantly, his sense of purpose that burned until his final breath. Franklin did not believe in idleness. He believed in progress, in rising each day with a mission greater than himself. That, more than any secret tonic, kept him alive when others were falling. Stress, nutrition, inactivity, and purposelessness. Each one of these steals your years like a thief in the night. But the deeper crime is that most men and women hand over the keys willingly. They give their lives away to distraction, to laziness, to fear, to the illusion that they will fix it tomorrow. But tomorrow is not guaranteed. The clock is merciless. And the human body, magnificent as it is, cannot be cheated. Think of the heart for a moment. This fist-sized muscle beats 100,000 times per day, without asking for applause, without demanding recognition. It works for you, faithfully, for decades. But what do most do in return? They suffocate it with stress, clog it with grease, weaken it with stillness, and break it with despair. And then they blame old age when the heart finally collapses. No, my friend, old age is not the enemy. Neglect is. Do you remember the story of Thomas Jefferson? Even in his later years, when his hair had turned white and his body was no longer that of a young revolutionary, Jefferson would rise before the sun, walk for hours, and read as if his mind still had centuries to explore. He lived into his 80s, not because he escaped time, but because he respected it. He moved, he fed his mind, he kept his purpose alive in every sunrise. This is the secret that the modern world forgets. Longevity is not merely a blessing of genes, it is the result of alignment with life's principles. But here is the greatest tragedy. Most people will hear these truths and dismiss them. They will say, "It's too late for me. I've already lived my years of neglect." But that is the language of defeat, the poison of resignation. Do you not understand? The body responds even now. Every cell in you is listening. Even today, your blood is renewing itself. Your bones are rebuilding themselves. Your brain is rewiring itself. Life is not finished with you until you decide to be finished with life. That is the power hidden in plain sight. Imagine a man who decides at 60 that his story is not over. He begins to move his body again, even if only with walks at first. He chooses to eat as though food were medicine, not entertainment. He learns to quiet the storms of his mind, to meditate, to breathe, to forgive. And most importantly, he finds a purpose, a reason to rise, to create, to contribute. Do you know what happens? His body responds like dry soil, finally touched by rain. Muscles return, energy returns, hope returns. And while his peers complain of aches and wait for the end, he stands tall, alive, defying the statistics. The world will call it luck. But luck is only what discipline looks like from the outside. The truth is simple. The reason most older people struggle to live beyond 80 is not because the body was designed to fail. It is because the spirit was allowed to wither. And once the spirit is gone, the body follows. So I ask you, what will you choose? To live as most do, handing your life over to these 4 silent assassins? Or to awaken, to fight, to reclaim your years before they are stolen? Understand this. Every day you live unconsciously, the assassins grow stronger. But every day you live with intention, you steal back time. The poet once said, "Do not go gentle into that good night." He was not speaking only of death, he was speaking of life itself. Refuse to go gentle into decay. Refuse to surrender your youth to stress, to poison, to idleness, to emptiness. Choose to rise, to nourish, to move, to live for something beyond yourself. Because when you do not merely extend your years, you expand the quality of every single moment you are given. The first assassin, stress, is the silent arsonist that burns the body from within. Doctors can measure its fingerprints, blood pressure that rises, arteries that harden, immunity that weakens, but they cannot measure the dreams it destroys, the light it drains, the years it subtracts. You've seen it yourself. Look at the man who once laughed easily in his youth, but now walks with shoulders slumped, his face frozen in a permanent frown, his chest heavy with invisible weight. Stress did that. And most never release it. They bottle it, bury it, pretend it is strength to endure it. But endurance without release is not strength, it is decay. History shows us this pattern again and again. Consider Ulysses S. Grant, the great general. He carried the Union to victory, but in his later years the weight of financial ruin and personal despair pressed upon him so mercilessly that his health collapsed like a worn structure. His heart, once fierce, surrendered early, not to bullets, not to disease, but to unrelenting inner fire. If stress can conquer a man of steel like Grant, what do you think it is doing to the ordinary worker, the mother juggling endless burdens, the man enslaved by debt? Yet here lies the overlooked truth: stress is not invincible. It can be mastered, redirected, discharged like lightning from a storm. Breathe, walk, pray, meditate, speak, forgive, release. These are not luxuries, they are survival. When you do not discharge the storm, it will discharge itself in the form of heart attacks, strokes, and breakdowns. And then people will say, "He died of natural causes." No, he died of unnatural neglect. The second assassin, poor nutrition, is far more insidious. For what you eat becomes what you are. Your very blood is shaped by your meals, your bones carved from the minerals you supply or deny, your brain built from the oils you consume. Every choice at the table is a brushstroke painting the masterpiece or the tragedy of your health. And yet, society treats food as entertainment rather than medicine. Andrew Carnegie once remarked that the man who dies rich dies disgraced. But how many die with bank accounts full while their bodies are bankrupt from decades of self-inflicted starvation? They fed their desires, not their cells. They nourished their cravings, not their strength, and then they wonder why, at 70, their bodies betray them. Betrayal? No. The body only reflected the input it was given. You cannot feed fire with ashes and expect it to burn bright. But do not miss the miracle hiding in plain sight. Change your diet and you change your destiny. Replace the sugars, the chemicals, the empty foods with what the earth itself provides. Fruits, vegetables, grains, water, and your body responds as though resurrected. In weeks, the blood shifts. In months, the skin glows. In years, the entire course of your life bends. Yet most dismiss it, because convenience feels easier than discipline. But ask yourself, is it easier to choose discipline today or to choose disease tomorrow? One costs effort, the other costs your life. The third assassin, inactivity, is not merely laziness, it is surrender. The body is built for motion, for sweat, for resistance. A tree that does not sway in the wind grows brittle. A river that does not flow grows stagnant. And a human who does not move becomes a prison to himself. Look at Henry Ford. He valued efficiency, yes, but he also valued strength. He farmed, worked with his hands, moved constantly. Today, people drive everywhere, sit for hours, stare at glowing screens, and call it life. But it is not life. It is a slow suffocation of the gift they were given. Do not confuse comfort with living. The couch that feels like relief today becomes the coffin that closes tomorrow. Movement is not optional. It is the tax you pay to remain alive. And then, the fourth assassin, purposelessness the deadliest of all. For even if you conquer stress, nourish your body, and move with discipline, if you have no reason to rise in the morning, your soul will dim and drag your body with it. Look at Walt Disney, who faced failures so crushing they would have buried the average man. But because he had a vision, a world of imagination, castles rising from swamps, characters that carried hope, he outlived the doubts, the defeats, the years of struggle. Purpose made him immortal. Contrast him with the man who retires at 65, thinking life's work is done. He collects his pension, sits in his chair, stares at a television screen, and within a few years fades. Why? Because he stopped creating. He stopped contributing. He stopped being necessary to the world. And when a man is no longer necessary, his body decides his time is up. Understand this. Purpose is not found in luxury, in status, in trophies. It is found in service, in growth, in becoming more than you were yesterday. When you have purpose, your cells respond. Your body becomes an instrument of your will, and even in old age, you rise with fire. Look at Michelangelo, painting at 87. Look at Nelson Mandela, still shaping nations at 80. Purpose carried them where medicine could not. And so these four assassins, stress, poor nutrition, inactivity, purposelessness, are not merely health issues. They are life issues. They are spiritual issues, and until you confront them, they will cut your life short, not because they are strong, but because you refuse to be stronger. The way to conquer stress is not to run from life, but to master the battlefield of the mind. Stress will never vanish, but it can be transformed. Think of a blacksmith. He places raw iron into the furnace, watches it glow under the heat, and instead of letting it melt uselessly, he strikes it into form. That is what you must do with stress. You cannot prevent the fire, but you can forge yourself in it. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, ruled over plagues, wars, betrayal. The empire itself seemed to collapse at times, yet his writings and meditations reveal a mind that refused to be a prisoner of chaos. He trained himself to breathe through storms, to treat stress not as an enemy, but as a sculptor. And this is what you must do. Breathe when the storm comes. Separate yourself from the thought that destroys you. Release the weight you were never meant to carry. Speak your pain, write it, pray it, sweat it out in motion, but never let it stagnate inside you. For stagnant stress is poison, but transformed stress is power. Now look at nutrition, the simplest yet most ignored of all revolutions. Understand this. Every bite you eat is a vote for your future. Most cast votes for their destruction 3 times a day and then wonder why their body rebels decades later. Do you remember Hippocrates, the father of medicine? Over 2,000 years ago he declared, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." Centuries later, the truth has not changed. A man who chooses the earth's food, water that cleanses, fruits that heal, vegetables that strengthen, grains that sustain, chooses vitality. A man who chooses processed poisons chooses decay. Nikola Tesla once survived on little sleep, but he valued purity of diet. He believed a clear body gave him a clear mind. And perhaps this is why his imagination stretched beyond the stars, while so many of his peers collapsed into exhaustion. Purity fuels creativity, fuels energy, fuels life itself. If you would outwit the assassin of poor nutrition, you must see every meal as a contract with your destiny. Eat for longevity, not for convenience, and your body will reward you with years others will never see. The third assassin, inaction, is defeated not by heroic effort, but by consistency. You do not need to run marathons. You do not need to lift mountains. You need to move every day as if motion is sacred, because it is. Leonardo da Vinci believed movement was the key to both body and mind. He wrote of walking as a tool for thinking, for creating. And in his later years, while others decayed, he still moved with vigor because he never abandoned motion. So, walk, stretch. Train your body not for vanity but for survival. Dance with your children, work in the garden, lift what needs lifting. Let no day pass without sweat, for sweat is life's way of reminding you that you are still alive. The man who keeps moving never grows old. He only grows wiser. And then, the fourth assassin, purposelessness. This one cannot be conquered with diet or movement. It can only be defeated with vision. Without vision, the soul decays long before the body does. Without vision, you are a ship without a compass, drifting until you sink. But with vision, even frailty becomes strength. Look at Helen Keller, blind and deaf, yet she lived to 87, inspiring millions. She had no sight, no hearing, yet she had a reason to exist, and that reason gave her decades of strength that many with perfect bodies never achieve. Purpose is not about what you lack. It is about what you choose to live for. So ask yourself now, what mission will you die for? What dream will you live for? What reason will pull you from bed when your bones ache, when your years are heavy? Without an answer, your days will shorten. With an answer, your life will expand. And here is the miracle that most ignore. When you master stress, when you nourish your body, when you move with discipline, when you anchor your soul in purpose, longevity is not merely survival, it is vitality. You do not just live long, you live strong, you live awake, you live as proof that the assassins can be outwitted. But it requires a decision, not tomorrow, not someday, today, this hour, because every delay strengthens the assassins. Every moment of hesitation is one more piece of your life they take away. And if you think it is too late, look at those who defied time. Colonel Sanders founded Kentucky Fried Chicken in his 60s. Grandma Moses began painting at 78. Fauja Singh ran marathons past the age of 100. They are proof it is not too late. It is never too late. But it begins now. It begins with you. Time, my friend, is both the most ruthless and the most generous of teachers. It rewards those who honor it and destroys those who ignore it. The choice has always been yours. To live unconsciously, surrendering your body to stress, to poison, to stillness, to emptiness, or to rise in defiance, to claim every breath as a gift, every day as a battlefield, every moment as proof that you were born to endure, to create, to conquer. Picture yourself at 80, not frail and fading, but standing with steady posture, eyes sharp with fire, voice carrying the weight of wisdom. Picture yourself walking freely while others your age are confined to chairs, speaking words that ignite the hearts of the young. Your presence itself a testament that life can be extended, not merely in years, but in vitality. This is not a fantasy, it is a decision. And that decision begins not with some distant tomorrow, but with the very next choice you make. Every heartbeat is asking you a question. Will you live, or will you drift? Every step you take or refuse to take is a vote for life or death. And history will not remember the excuses. It will only remember whether you rose or surrendered. Think of Edison, who refused to stop experimenting even after 1,000 failures. Think of Lincoln, who rose from failure after failure to lead a nation. Think of Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years, yet walking out not as a broken old man, but as a leader who lived with purpose into his 90s. These men were not spared suffering. They were not granted easy paths. They mastered the assassins by refusing to let them win. And that same power lives within you now. So stand. Stand against the storm of stress. Breathe, release, rise. Stand against the poison of convenience. Choose nourishment over neglect. Stand against the chains of stillness. Move as though your life depends on it, because it does. And most of all, stand against the abyss of purposelessness. Find your reason, light it, guard it, live for it until your final day. Because when the end comes, and it will, you will not measure your life in years. You will measure it in vitality. Did you live awake? Did you live with fire? Did you squeeze the marrow out of every day, refusing to let life slip by as a silent thief? Or did you sleep through your own existence, only to awaken when it was too late? The choice is yours, and the moment is now. Refuse the destiny of the average. Refuse to let 80 be the finish line. Stretch it, break it, defy it. Write a story so bold, so alive, that when your final breath comes, the world will not say, "He lived long." They will say, he lived fully. Because the truth is simple. Age is not your master. Purpose is. Discipline is. Vision is. And when you live by these, 80 will not be an end, it will be a beginning. So rise. Rise with conviction. Rise with discipline. Rise with fire in your heart. Outlive the assassins. Outlive the statistics. Outlive the excuses. And live not just beyond 80, but beyond fear, beyond limits, beyond the ordinary. Your life is waiting, the years are waiting, eternity is waiting. Live.